You're going to take your sorry, pathetic being, and you're going to try to offer me something that maybe I want.
There once was a man from Edmonton who talked just a bit like a certain frog, and of fans he too made a ton. But one day there descended a fog. He found himself lost in a curious flu and reinstated his Twitter account, something he strictly promised not to do. But something was just a bit awry. We couldn't quite put our finger on it, but this intuition none could deny. He's changed, and it hurts a bit. The co-host of this channel, Muzzy, has been working on a YouTube series where he goes over Jordan Peterson's new book chapter by chapter. The new book is called We Who Wrestle with God, and it got me thinking about Jordan Peterson and how much I used to enjoy his videos when I was younger.
Does God love me?
There's one lecture that he gave in particular.
Well, now I'm going to tell you this story.
And it's an older one. And so this is a little bit more like ancient Jordan Peterson. He's a little bit less Silver Fox. This is pre-carnivore diet as well.
This diary is astounding.
Anyway, in this lecture, he reads to the audience a children's story.
It's written for 4-year-old kids. But I want you to take a look at it for a moment from a different perspective and see if you can imagine exactly what it is that it's saying.
A short synopsis of the story is basically that a child, the main character in the story, wakes up to discover that there's a small dragon in the house.
There's no such thing as a dragon. Billy Bixby was rather surprised when he woke up one morning and found a dragon in his room.
Dragon, these fucking nuts.
It was a small dragon about the size of a kitten. Billy went downstairs to tell his mother, there's no such thing as a dragon.
And his mom tells him to ignore it because dragons are not real. And at that point the dragon starts to grow and grow until it is undeniable and can't be ignored anymore. I'll link the entire lecture in the description below. I think it's worth watching, even just scrubbing through a little bit. There's a certain charm, I think, to the way that he speaks. Hi, Editor Chris, just jumping in here. Got some Roblox content for you gritty little content goblins out there. Anyway, I just wanted to jump in. Why are we listening to a children's story? Can we please get back to talking about his snatched carnivore diet body? Well, honestly, this is just to establish that he used to be pretty cool. This is honestly a pretty cool lecture. I appreciate it. One of the things I like about old Jordan Peterson, primary motive for him was to evoke to something sort of universal and abstract, like it's probably best that you slay them before they get too big. There's a sort of generality to that that's applicable to everyone. It just kind of feels like a band that's super awesome that hasn't quite hit, and it's just like that garage rock. There's just still that authenticity there.
You have a net worth of $10 million.
Yeah, that's wrong. It's way more than that.
Given that Steven Crowder, someone who was popular at the time, but fractional in popularity compared to Jordan Peterson, if he was offered $50 million, I'm just going to imagine Jordan Peterson's contract is 9 figures. Okay, so let's say with 100 million potential dollars tying him to the Daily Wire, which is just sort of inherently a political thing. I understand. Of course, you know, we need people to talk about that or whatever. You need a well-informed public that participates in the political whatever. But I'd be lying if I said I really wanted to hear any of that, like at all at this point. I guess it almost brings me to grief a little bit that someone who's obviously so talented with respect to whatever domain you would call this children's story lecture, it just seems like a lot of wasted potential when all he seems to talk about is like politics.
How often have you actually gone into a house where there's a dragon? My guess is if you don't take this particularly specifically and allow yourself to use your imagination and to think metaphorically for a moment, you've all encountered dozens of houses that were filled right to the rafters with various dragons, all of which were being studiously ignored by the people who inhabited the house. There's a big problem here. The problem is, it's true. You're oppressed, you're oppressed, you're oppressed, you're oppressed. God only knows why. You know, people get upset with me because I bring in religious themes, but I understand some things about mythology and religion. And it's not an accident that the axiomatic Western individual is someone who was unfairly nailed to a cross and tortured. It's like, yes, right, exactly. So what do you do about that? Pick up your damn suffering and bear it. And try to be a good person so you don't make it worse. This idea that hell is a bottomless pit, and that's because no matter how bad it is, some stupid son of a bitch like you could figure out a way to make it a lot worse. Well, so what do you do in the face of that suffering? Try to reduce it. Start with yourself. What good are you? Get yourself together for Christ's sake, so that when your father dies, you're not whining away in a corner, and you can help plan the funeral, and you can stand up solidly so that people can rely on you. That's better. Don't be a damn victim. Of course you're a victim. Jesus, obviously. Get yourself together. Transcend your suffering. See if you can be some kind of hero. Make the suffering in the world less. Well, that's the way forward, as far as I can tell, if there is any way forward.
I just can't help but notice, like, how angry he's become.
And I'm less popular in my own neighborhood than I am anywhere else in the world, literally. And that's very annoying.
He's doing that thing that people online do where they just are angry all the time. All the time. And it's like a Tyler 1 level anger. It's kind of like we're all riding this big oceanic psychic current, and he just decides to drop just a vial of just toxic ick in the water. And by the way, it's not just him. I mean, we could name 100 streamers.
America deserved 9/11, dude. I'm saying it.
We're there to partner with them.
And, you know, look, obviously it's not good for JP, but that's none of my business. The thing is, it's not good for me. Don't get me wrong, I like a little bit of fire under the hood, you know what I mean, sometimes. Like when Jordan Peterson totally owned that libtard lady. Woman getting owned alert. Here's the problem. When I watch the video of him talking about the Dragon storybook, I feel that that actually is good for me. And when I watch his new stuff, I feel that it is not. What's the difference exactly? I feel that the Overton window has sort of shut on him, or at least is shutting. But honestly, I mean, I can't think of any social place I've been in the last couple of years where I would just be kind of openly a fan.
While I was editing this video, I thought of a place that one could safely admit to being a JP fan openly. And that place would be League of Legends solo queue.
And the thing is, let's just play a little mind experiment here. Pretend that you're a JP fan and pretend that someone is confronting you about it. Like, why? I want you to just run through the list of wacky wildness that is Jordan Peterson and just kind of try and defend. And you'll realize you can't. You know, it's just a dude. So it's like, oh, great. You know, even if I do like him, I can't really even defend it or like explain why adequately he's made that impossible.
I dreamed I saw my maternal grandmother sitting by the bank of a swimming pool, which was also a river. Her genital region was exposed dimly. It had the appearance of a thick mat of hair. She was stroking herself absent-mindedly.
One other thing, just while we're apparently just making a drama video, I gotta take a little bit of beef with JP because he's certainly popularized sort of Carl Jung. It's become like cringe normie to talk about Jung, which is really disappointing because just in my lifetime, it wasn't that way. It's a little disappointing that I can't really talk about it without people kind of side-eyeing me and it coming off as white boy cringe.
Top 3 favorite rappers.
Okay, number 1, the GOAT, Eminem. Number 2.
He's always sort of been a defender of the idea of God, but it seems that he's totally leaned into the Christian thing at this point. I have a clip of him basically admitting to being a Christian. I'll play it now.
I went back in time with a Panasonic video camera and put that camera in front of the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea. Would the little LCD screen show a man walk out of that tomb?
I would suspect.
I don't know that
yes.
he would admit to being Christian, but his wife most certainly would. His wife has since also, I think, joined the Catholic faith. Of course, I don't take stock of whether or not Brad Pitt is being Christian this week. I do that next week. Obviously, it doesn't matter to me whether he or his wife are Catholic. I mean, they can go to hell if they want that. I only bring it up to introduce something that I have never heard anyone talk about with respect to Jordan Peterson. Carl Jung wrote a book called Ion. It's not really worth going into what the book's about. Carl Jung believes that the story of Jesus Christ is a little bit more psychologically important than just the story being literally true and God actually came here and died or whatever. And he was concerned that since people were giving up on religion, well, we would lose the image of Jesus and also all of the deep psychological content within the symbol. So Jung says, as we enter the astrological age of Aquarius. Yes, and by the way, I'm not kidding, he actually brings in astrology.
The problem we are left with is the irreconcilable conflict between religion and science, between the Christian and anti-Christian sentiments. In Jung's mind, this will be the fundamental conflict which will define the new ion. If the previous ion, the ion of Pisces, was about establishing both the Christian and anti-Christian energies, the new ion, the ion of Aquarius, will be about trying to resolve this opposition. Science must recognize the psychological value of the God image, and religion must allow their core myths to take on a new skin, to change the details of their appearance, but maintain their essence. It is this very thing that both Jung and Peterson are trying to do.
In the same way Aquarius is like a water bearer, we need to bear the psychological content of Jesus into the next sort of non-religious era. I think Jordan Peterson sees himself as one of these water bearers. I think he read Carl Jung as a young man. It's very clear that he's familiar. He's talked about ion specifically on multiple occasions. As much as I love talking about the libtards all the time, maybe we could get back to slaying our dragons. I think that would be cool. Whew, what a hard day at work. Let's relax to some Jesus Christ clearing negative energy from your house and your mind music to heal